Imagine, if you will, it is 1997 and you've just gotten your hands on the latest and greatest in off-road cycling technology. The razor's edge of innovation, a Cannondale F2000.
Quit playing games with my heart.
Fast forward 26 years. You're still committed to a rig that's older than the guy who just sold you coffee. You're finding it harder to keep up with people who are less experienced than you on the trails. And you're realizing it takes you longer to slow down and stop than any of your riding companions. I've often said one of my greatest life achievements is living through the advent of disc brakes on bikes. But you're still die-by-the-sword committed to your forever bike because it's Attitude Red and you've named it Isosceles.
Your forever bike.
Or perhaps you had a 1994 Specialized Rockhopper that was chop shop converted into a truck bike by some madman in San Francisco. Which is exactly the case with this truck bike. Rumor has it this is a reconfigured Rockhopper, and there's still remnants of its past life in the components. But the rebuilt front end with the addition of a frame-mounted rack rolling on a 20-inch wheel with a drum brake tells me that this bike has had a dramatic amount of work put into it to give it a second life. Which is a brilliant way to extend the life of an out-of-date bicycle. Out of date, talk about out of sight. Ow! I got this bike in 2010 from a bike shop in San Francisco called Box Dog Bikes. I've had it and loved it ever since. But even a bike as special as this is not impervious to the tides of time and the unrelenting waves of innovation. As time's gone by, my needs have changed, and now I'm faced with the rather difficult decision of having this bike find a good home and finding a proper replacement for it. More stressful than I anticipated. I don't think I can sell this bike. It just doesn't feel right. And giving it away to some random stranger somehow just seems incomplete. What to do, what to do, what to do. I've got it. I'll donate it. And I know the perfect place. It's Community Cycling Center. It's a non-profit bicycle advocacy hub here in Portland. Their focus is to have cycling be accessible for all people in the community. So donating a bike is the perfect way to support them, and I know that the bike will go to somebody who actually wants it.
I'd like to donate a bike. Oh yes, thank you.
Now the issue becomes, what bike do I replace it with? It's gotta be a truck bike. A cargo bike is just too much. Plus, we've already got the van. It's gotta have a frame-mounted front rack. I don't want all that weight on the fork. It makes the bike unnecessarily difficult to ride. And it's gotta be an e-bike. That other bike was so slow and difficult to ride, any distance greater than a mile. This is kind of crazy. This company, RadPowered Bikes, just hit me up to see if I was interested in one of their e-utility bikes. It's actually a truck bike. I think this thing's gonna work just fine. It's at least worth giving a try. And it looks strikingly similar to the Specialized Haul. It's actually $500 cheaper than the Haul. I figured it was just too good to pass up. But full disclosure, they did send me this bike, but this video is not sponsored. No money exchanged hands, no funny business. All right, so what did I get? This is the Rad Runner 3 Plus utility bike. It's got a 45-mile range with a 750-watt motor. It's got a carrying capacity of 350 pounds, a big old rack on the back, which you can add a seat to for human hauling, or panniers for stuff hauling. Plus, it accepts a frame-mounted front rack. And the battery, it's detachable, because there's no way in hell you would want to carry this thing anywhere to charge it. And that makes it easier to replace when it comes time to replace it. And it's designed for a spread of inseams, from 20-inch all the way to 40, which is a lot. That means my wife and I can both ride this bike. And this is accomplished with a quick-release seat post, which I added a chain to because that's a surefire way to lose your saddle in the city. And the first thing I did was replace the weird comfort saddle with our springy Brooks. This thing's got way too much cushion for the pushing. Just, no thank you. It's a 1x7 and the motor is in the rear hub, which, I don't know, it seems fine. It does come with this funny suspension fork, which is not my favorite. I wish it didn't have it. It adds weight, it's future maintenance. It doesn't seem necessary, especially considering how big these tires are. Now that's cushion, I'm down for pushing. But it does come with fenders. Thank God. And this thing retails at $2,300. As far as I can tell, this is essentially the same category as the Specialized Haul, only $500 cheaper. But I would love to do a comparison to see what the differences actually are. It comes with a speedometer, which is also an odometer, so you can see how many miles you've actually put on this machine. It's a cool feature. Plus, lights come stock. They're on whenever you want them, and the brakes trigger a brake light. I've never seen that on a bike. Oh, and this thing also shows you how much battery you have left. There's 5 power modes, which is a lot. Oh, and another thing, this is kind of a bummer. It has a throttle. I'm not a fan of that. To me, it defeats the purpose of the e-bike. Then it's just a motorcycle, right? On the noise level, I would call this a medium. It's not the loudest e-bike, but it's definitely not the quietest. One thing I noticed right away is the body position is very upright. For anybody that does a lot of performance cycling, it feels totally crazy. I think it's designed for the casual cruiser, the super commuter. It's like you're all leaning back and it feels like you're standing totally vertical. You do get used to it, but it takes a minute. It's like such a trip. Very comfort bike. And for what it's worth, I see people on these all the time, taking their kids to school, hauling big loads of groceries. They're definitely around. And it's a class 1, so you top out at 20 miles an hour. There's a lot more juice here than it lets me use. Oh, and this thing is heavy as sin. Do not get this bike if you have to carry it up anything. Yeah. I gotta admit, I am a big fan of this category of bike. Utilitarian e-bike, little soft spot right here. Is this bike perfect? No, but it does cover a lot of bases. But I'm kind of curious what you think. Would this work in your life? Could it replace a car? How would you use it? And if you're big on the data, I'll put the link for this thing down below. You can scour spreadsheets to your little heart's content. Now I want to show you the polar opposite of a utilitarian e-bike. It's this bike. It's a performance gravel e-bike, and it checks a whole other category of boxes than this one checks. And if I was your life coach, I would say that there's probably room for both of these bikes in your life. Yeah.